So g'day everyone, we're just doing an emergency episode of the Gyms podcast because this is a really exciting new division. You're going to see a lot of different content about this, and it's a really, really exciting one that Gyms really, really behind. And I'm with Andy today, who's head of our legal department. But Andy, we're launching Gyms Legal, and it's something which Jim's been wanting to do for a long time, but he just hasn't had the person to do it until now. Yep. So maybe you want to talk about Gyms Legal, how's it going to operate, and obviously for our franchisees who probably do need services from time to time, what are the services that you can provide to them?
So Gyms Legal exists. It's a law firm. It's owned by Gyms Group. Gyms Group is a major client of ours, but because we're an incorporated legal practice, that means that we can act for the public at large as well, including our franchisees. When it comes to franchisees, we do have to be very careful to avoid conflict of interest. So we obviously can't advise on anything that relates to Gyms Group, but there's a whole manner of things that franchisees might need in terms of different commercial agreements, having agreements reviewed, leases, employment contracts, contractor agreements, and we hope that we can support franchisees with that, as well as their personal affairs. So wills, enduring powers of attorney. We don't do conveyancing, but we have a conveyancing division as well. So between Gyms Legal and Gyms Conveyancing, I hope that we're in a good place to support our franchisees.
Well, it sounds like with that, with obviously conveyancing and now legal, you're going to have most things covered for our small business owners and for just general members of the public who might be a bit put off about going to get legal advice, whereas under the Gyms banner, and obviously knowing Jim's commitment to customer service, he's really passionate about customer service focus. Now, everyone might go, well, lawyers, their interest is the customer, but from your experience, is that always the case?
No, I don't think so, but I think there is that perception in the public. I think people are reluctant to go and see a lawyer. I've definitely seen, just recently, dispute matters come across my desk where if they'd come and seen me just a little bit earlier, we could have saved them some money or avoided a dispute. Wills are another example where people just don't get them done. About 50% of people in Australia die without a will, and it's not a complex document to prepare. So I hope that having a law firm with Gyms, the Gyms brand will really it's something that people recognise and trust, and I'm really looking forward to hoping that has an impact on the public and a willingness to go and see a lawyer.
Now let's talk about the wills a little bit, because obviously people can think they can go on, there's those will kits which get promoted online and they're like really, really cheap and all that sort of stuff. So maybe do you want to talk about what's the difference between using your services for wills as opposed to one of those online kits? Yeah,
and so there was a recent case in Western Australia where the judge spoke about the curse of the post office will, and the judge's remarks in that case were along the lines of, we're clear that the will maker knew what they wanted to do. They had an intention that was clear, but when it actually came to putting it down on paper, it was confusing. And I think if you go and see a lawyer, someone qualified, you get some advice just to make sure that the will's appropriate. So common mistakes when it comes to homemade wills, just making sure the formal requirements are met. So making sure that it's signed by two independent witnesses. People use the same pen so that it's clear to whoever's examining the will that it was signed by people in the same time as the will maker signed it. Future-proofing the will as well. What happens if the person you appoint as executor dies before you, or a beneficiary dies before you? It's those kind of details that people miss if they try and make their own will.
I was going to say, with the wills, though, it's really important, because I went through this with my mum. She didn't have one. And it was okay in the end, but it just made things a lot harder, having to deal with multiple people, and you got all this stress at the time. And she didn't have one at all. And it was very, very hard and frustrating to deal with. And I think estate planning, people don't want to think about it, but it just makes, it makes your family's life and all so much easier if there is something in place. And it's just a little bit of effort here to have that long-term mindset to just make it, if something does happen, that really hard time a lot easier. Because if it's not in place, it can be a lot of lot of issues, and I went through this, and it was really, really tough, and it made a tougher time even tougher.
Yeah.
And it could have been something that was sorted out a couple of years prior.
And I think that's a common experience. So at the very least, it's a starting point, isn't it? It's a roadmap. It's a plan. That's why they call it estate planning. So, you're going through a very tough time, and at least you know there's a will. You can see what the next steps are. The name of the person who drew the will is on the cover. So it's just one thing less to worry about at a really difficult time. And it's also peace of mind for the person who does the will. That, these things are going to be sorted.
Because we've had situations with franchisees, unfortunately, or franchisors where things have happened, and then they're left. The loved one's just been left with this whole uncertainty, right? And no one plans to, and to have that plus business interest as well, not just the personal interest. It's the business interest. How does it operate? What would look like if something happened to me? Right. I don't think having that business plan, especially for our franchisees and franchisors as well, having that sorted out is just such a peace of mind for yourself, and it's not that much of an overly big expense to get that all sorted, is it?
No, that's right. So for a standard will for a couple, so mirror will for a couple, everything to each other, everything to the kids, we charge $990. And then for an individual, $550. So it's not a huge outlay. As part of that, we'll talk to the client. We want to make sure we're giving them, an appropriate will. If they have more complex affairs, we'll be very upfront about that at the outset and say, look, for different reasons, you might require a more complex will, but we'll always be very transparent about that.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer, and just as people might be watching this going, well, I can get one online for $29 or whatever. But as you said previously, it's a risk to do that. Yep. And if you've got business interests and other things besides, you're not just an employee. Most of all of our franchisees, are business owners and franchisors. You've probably got some investment properties. You've got the region or the territory, all that other stuff. Like, it just has to be done properly.
It does, and it's easy to understand how it can be confusing. So what's in a person's estate versus what's outside a person's estate. I think superannuation is a good example. So that doesn't form part of an estate unless you direct your superannuation into your estate. So it's those kind of complexities and passing of control of companies and trusts that really it is a good idea to speak with a lawyer.
Now, I think the beauty of Jim's, you said it in some other videos we did, which is the approachability. I think, right, people, as soon as they think I've got to go to a lawyer, they just think thousands, right? That's the instant reaction. And I personally don't think lawyers are overly accommodating. They're like, they try and look, suits, hyper professional. It's like it's not really inviting or, accessible to the common person, I would say. And most of our franchisees, would probably fall in the small business, just common sort of people that don't want to too much fuss or be put off by it. So I just think the beauty of what you guys are doing is, because of the Jim's brand, it's got that accessibility, it's got that likability, it's got that known, it's got that trust. It's just going to be, I hope, a game changer for people in situations where they might not have got legal advice, whereas they now will be inclined to do it. Because there's a good example of a guy called Jared. I don't know how much we can talk about specifically, but he asked me on Facebook about this whole thing, and I said, look, Jim's just started up this email gym. Then he got in contact with you, and then every time we do Facebook Live and stuff, he's saying, thank you, Jim, so much for all that sort of stuff. And this is a guy who probably didn't have this avenue, would have been way worse off than what he would have been. And
Jared was great to deal with. I won't go into details, but I mean, I've seen the kind words and the testimonial that is given, but really it's a situation that was causing him a lot of stress. He was worried about it, but it's the sort of thing that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and just being able to say, look, we can take this for you. This is the situation you're in. This is what happens next. This is what we recommend. We're able to get a good outcome for him.
Because I think the average punter like Jared, average punter, small business and stuff, like if he had to do this in isolation, like he was just going to be up for mountains of money. And I will argue this, that the lawyer might have just been not overly interested in it because it's not an overly big money matter, and might not have provided that level of customer service because they've got other things to worry about, which they probably do. So it just seems to be like it was such a good small win and a good test case for why Jim's legal hopefully he's going to fill a really big gap in the market for what is currently there.
Yeah, and that's what I hope. I hope that we're a known brand, we're a trusted brand. People won't be reluctant to just give us a call.
It's going to be an interesting reaction because when we put the Gyms Legal online, it's going to be interesting to see how the legal profession in particular reacts. We had this go through with Gyms Real Estate, right? Yeah. Similar sort of thing. And most of the time, people will see that and go, they won't understand how much experience you've got and you're going behind this. They just think it's someone rocking up and doing that. So your experience is obviously extensive. You've been working with high-level stuff, obviously with Jim, which can be a very demanding client, which we know. Yeah. It's okay to say that on camera. Yeah. But you've dealt with a lot of scenarios, and now to have people to have access to the systems and to the similar legal advice, which entrepreneur, franchising now Icon gets. Yeah. It's just a fantastic opportunity.
And look, I hope that it's something we can share, in terms of franchise agreements as well, or prospective people who might be watching this and thinking about buying a franchise. Obviously, we hope they go and get a Gyms franchise, in which case we can't advise on that. But other franchises, they're interested in franchises in general. I think having a franchise agreement reviewed, getting some advice about the risks, whether it's a fair document, that's something that I think we're very well placed to advise on.
Yeah, and I think some people now need to know Jim's really passionate about that. I interview a lot of franchisees for the podcast, and they do look at other systems as well. And to hear about some of the stuff they find in the contracts, they go, geez, if I didn't actually read it and sign it, I would have been in trouble. So really, really important. So contract review, you can review the whole suite of documents from any franchise system, no problem.
Yep, that's exactly right. That's any non-Gym system, that's right. And what we do is we do a real risk-focused approach. So have a look at it. Is there anything unusual, onerous? And then we'd have a meeting, whether it's remotely or in person, and just talk through the key provisions, make sure that the person understands, what they're signing. Is there something that should be pushed back on as well? So that would all be part of the service.
Now, has there been any other services you've done already? Because we haven't gone official yet, like we're going to go official soon. But has there been anything else? You've mentioned Jared, which was one scenario. Has there been anything else you've done so far for people?
We have actually. So we've been in operation for a couple of months now, primarily through my network. And there's been quite a variety of matters. I'm just trying to think. We acted on a shareholders agreement, so a partnership agreement, an agreement between business owners to talk about how decisions are made, what happens if one business partner wants to exit. So they're really important agreements if you have multiple business owners. We've acted for an employer who dismissed an employee and was challenged, so just assisting in resolving an employment dispute. We've assisted a client with some commercial leasing and a sale of business matter as well. So we've had a few matters already come in, which is good. I think we just want to make sure that the system works. There's a real expectation when people contact gyms about customer service. We want to make sure that we're in a position to meet that responsibility.
Yeah, so I was going to say, if people do want to ask you guys questions or anything, because there might be, I presume once we put this out, there's going to be a lot of franchisees go, geez, I need to get into contact. Yep. The chat doesn't cost anything, they can just contact them?
No, call us, 131 546, or put an inquiry on the website, gymslegal.com.au. We'll make sure someone has a chat and just see if we can help. If we can't help, we'll let you know and maybe give some recommendations about where you can go.
Now, a question I've just got to be clear on for people. They might be thinking this. So a franchisee can't come to your franchisor and say, I want to sue Jim. You can't help him out.
No, absolutely.
I just want to be clear on that.
We have to be very careful about conflicts of interest. We can't. We act for Jim's Group.
Yeah, so don't come and try and sue Jim via Andy. It's not going to happen via Jim's Legal. That'd be very cheeky. But I was going to say as well, with what's your hope to this with this service offering? Because it's going to get a fair bit of reaction online. I can already see it getting a fair bit of reaction online from the industry. And I'm hoping it's positive, but I presume there will be this, because we went through this with Gyms Real Estate, right? And the industry goes, oh, geez, Gyms is coming in, they instantly get their back up a bit about it. So what would you say to those people who might be a bit sceptical about Gyms getting into the legal, into the law side? What would you say to them?
Look, I hope that won't be the case. I hope people will be really supportive of it and encouraging. I think what we're trying to achieve in terms of making law approachable, plain English, easy to understand, and leveraging off a respected and trusted brand. They're all good ideals and what we should be trying to do as an industry. We should be approachable, practical, cost effective. And I think that's something that the legal profession as a whole is striving towards. Perhaps it's not there in the public perception, but that's where we should be going. And I'd like to think that other lawyers not involved in gyms legal would see that as a good thing. Disruption is a good thing often in an industry. I think you want to be a little bit disruptive and different, and if we can do that in a positive sense, then I hope that will be embraced.
And how have you found working at gyms overall, Andy? Because being Jim's lawyer, you're a very, very busy man, not just because there's disputes all the time, but Jim's obviously got a lot of ideas and want to do different structures and set up new things. Like, it's a lot of stuff, a lot of variety stuff.
Yeah.
You've got to be across. So how have you been finding it overall?
I mean, it's been amazing. So it's not easy. I am busy. Jim keeps me busy, but in a good way, I think. He's always, thinking about the next idea, wanting to support franchisees. What does that look like in terms of franchise agreements, that sort of thing. So I've really enjoyed my time getting to know the team. We have a beautiful place where we work as well. We're very lucky. So, And the great thing now is for franchisees, as we said earlier, is that obviously the conveyancing side, so all the real estate matters, the conveyancing team can handle it. Then obviously the wills and estates and all these other structures and everything. We've pretty much got everything, what they need pretty much covered now. So we've got obviously Jim's insurance. So the whole gamut of things they probably do need as business owners, we now have covered, which is fantastic. Yeah. And I use mowing. I am a Jim's mowing person.
That's
so
good.
Yeah, that's right. I think if we can, there's just a great for the different gyms, divisions and businesses to support each other.
Awesome.
It's a great thing.
So if you are interested, guys, please check out gymslegal.com.au or call 131 546. The great thing about our team here is that they've been working with franchisees already and helping them with different things. So they're obviously familiar with how gyms franchisees work and franchisors as well. So 131 546, gymslegal.com.au. No obligation as well. Doesn't hurt just to ask if you've got a question, and we'll take it from there. And thank you very much for joining us today on the Gyms podcast, Andy. We're looking forward to this. I think legal is going to be great. Well, hopefully we can get some PR and maybe get it on TV. I think it'll be one of interest to the public. It's just a matter of hopefully you don't get too overwhelmed with inquiries, but we'll have to deal with that from there.
All right. Thanks, Joel.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.